All right, we are live. Greetings, fellow traders. Let me get this tweeted out for everybody here so everybody can join in. 1 second. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good. Well, I hope everybody had a great trading day today. So today we're going to finish our discussion on the secrets for profiting, right? So this is based on Stan Weinstein's book, The Secrets for Profiting in Bull and Bear Markets. Very appropriate for this week as we have been testing the all-time highs, which we'll look at in a second here. And today's conclusion is going to be about a really cool section called Forest to the Trees. Forest to the Trees. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So before we get started, though, everything we're going to talk about is for educational purposes only and not investment advice. So please take a moment to review this disclaimer. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, let's take a quick peek here and see what we're talking about here in the market. So we can see with the SPX, right? So we had quite an interesting day today. We've had quite an interesting week, right? Even since last Friday, right? Because we had the upward trend line right here. And what happened after this upward trend line on Friday, right? We had a bearish day. We gapped up and we pushed down and we put a lower shadow below the upward trend line, right? So what does that do? That gives us a trend box, right? So, at the time, trend box is up here, right? So it's saying, we're kind of looking at this and we're saying, all right, what's going on? Well, if we close bearishly below, these levels, then we look to get bearish, right? It looks like the trend is changing, right? So then here comes Monday, right? We have this huge gap down here, right? So it's like, oh my goodness, that's really bearish, right? So, but we need to see how the price action is, right? We need to see what exactly happens, where we gap to and where it's holding, right? So we got into this congestion zone right here. So, prior support levels, prior buying pressure that worked our way up here. So we got right into that area. So basically price is testing in this range, right? And so what happens after that? Well, at this point, right, we want to activate, right? We want to make our trend box bigger, right? Because at this point, we didn't necessarily close bearishly. We closed below it, we gapped down, and then it came down to these levels, right? So very, very interesting stuff, right? So we would move our trend box down. So I don't think I can redraw it here. So let me actually just let me redraw it totally. So what we do is, now that we have these levels, right? So we got our prior high right here. We got a box on the top, right? We got our box on the low. Okay, so now we need to see if we close bearishly below this guy, right? Because it wasn't a bearish close. It gave us a spinning top, and it closed a little bit below the more intermediate trend line, right? So if it was a shooting star type pattern, we might assume that we'd be targeting this 50 moving average and then the cloud, etc. Right? So then what happened? Oh, wasn't really as bearish as we thought, right? So we gapped up the next day, and then we filled the open gap, right? So it's kind of bullish, but it kind of left an upper shadow, right? So we don't really know what's going on there. So at this point, it's like, okay, kind of middle of the road type stuff, right? And then we gap up again, except this one gives you a bearish candle, but we're still inside this trend box, right? So the trend box remains here, right? And then today, okay, so we have a gap down today, and then it starts to look really, really bearish, right? Okay, are we going to get into the bottom of this trend box or not? Well, it didn't, right? And so, in fact, not only did it kind of tested the area here, the real body, and then worked its way back up and closed bullishly within this candle. So, for the most part, it didn't get above this candle. If it did, that would be super bullish, right? But it got into it, and right, kind of gave a little bit of a slipping hot dog pattern, right? So, but anyway, we'll see right here if what happens, right? So from this point, we're kind of just waiting to see, right? So it's pretty bullish day today, and I believe futures are up even with bad news. Just recently here, let's take a look here. Let's take a look at the 15-minute chart. So this was today's candles, right? We stayed in the 15-hour range, had this nice inside 50, and then we kind of worked our way up today, right? So, oops, I didn't mean to move the trend box there. 1 second. This. What is this? There we go. All right, so we're in the trend box right here, but anyway, we worked ourselves back up. So let's take a look here and see what the S&P futures are looking like here after hours. Okay, so after hours we're up 4 points, right? So we're still a little bit bullish kind of going into this evening. Now we had a little bit of a move down there. Apparently the State Department, right? So the folks that issue passports or handle passports and travel and all that stuff basically issued a complete restriction, almost a restriction of travel. I'm not sure how formal it is, but a restriction of travel to China. Out of China, they're still encouraging, I believe, U.S. citizens to exit by commercial means, right? So it's definitely becoming a concern. The WHO spoke today, right? The World Health Organization spoke today and issued an international emergency declaration on the coronavirus as well. So I mean, it's generally pretty kind of disturbing stuff, right? But the market is still trying to hold up here a little bit. So we'll see what kind of implications this has for tomorrow. So real quick here, let's take a look at the back to the SPX real quick and just take a look at the levels that we use for our group that we provide before every market opens, so we have context to work with each day. And so you can see here on the SPX, right, we gapped down, but we had a nice hammer here at the open, which worked our way up to this next level. We came down, right, pretty quickly, right, elevator, take the stairs up and the elevator down, they say. So came back down to the filled a closing gap right here, hit the S3 level, tried to work its way back up again, back down to the S2 level. Oh, trying to get higher lows, right? So higher lows, we just need higher highs. We got higher highs, right? Higher lows, right? And then it worked our way up in the end of the day, right? So pretty good stuff there. All right, so that's the update. That's where we're at in the market right now. So let's take a look and see. Let's finish what we're going to talk about today. So today we're going to talk about the forest to the trees. And I know everybody's probably looking at this and they're like, wait a minute, forest to the trees? What does that mean? Forest to the trees, it's supposed to be forest for the trees, right? So, but instead of forest for the trees, right, this is kind of like a little bit of a different meaning, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So real quick, so from the book, right, what Weinstein talks about here is basically, I just thought it was kind of like a great way to kind of put like an overall perspective on the market. And we looked at a couple cool indicators this week and a couple moving averages that have been really helpful. Right, this is just kind of just an approach to the market, right? So just as basically he wrote in the book, right? So let me just make sure everything's coming through here, okay? Good. Yeah. So just like he wrote in the book, he says basically that not only is it important to know when to do something, but what to buy, right? So what you're buying in the market, right? So this is kind of interesting, right? We've been in a kind of a massive bull run recently, right? So we obviously look for bullish things, right? So what he calls this approach, the forest of the trees approach, and what it means is that you should work from the larger perspective of the market, right? And then kind of drill down to find the leaders, right? What stock looks best, right? And this is actually an approach we do in our group, before we look for stocks to swing, intraday or over, overnight or possibly longer, right? And many of you may do this too. So basically, what it's doing is he's got these three approaches, these three things. Okay, so the first is what is the trend of the market? So let's go to the chart right here. So what is the trend? So that is the first big thing, the first big question. What is the trend? Right, we've all talked about it, right? Trend is your friend, right? So we want to know basically. So if the trend is up, right, you want to be looking for buying. If the trend is negative, you don't want to do a lot of buying, right? You might even want to be shorting, right? Even if you see stocks that are breaking out, right? So it's even the downside. So the probabilities of success are quite low when the market trend is going against you. So that's why we have special tools in our group to identify like real good strength of trend, right? So we want to be in the direction of that ideally, right? We want to buy pullbacks in that trend. Right, and that's why we do these trend lines, right? So you always hear me saying we're bullish until proven otherwise, right? So in this bullish, trending market, we look for pullbacks to get higher, pullbacks to get higher, pullbacks to get higher, until things start to kind of look a little bit different, right? So trend might be changing here, right? We're in the trend box, it's the penalty box, right? So we don't know what the trend is right now. We don't know what it's doing, right? Are we guessing it's a top and saying it's going to go down? Not until we get confirmation, right? So at this point, we're in the trend box. We don't really know what's going on, right? So we're not necessarily looking for. We're looking for maybe intraday type trades, right? But even then, we still want to be cautious, right? Because we could see just even based on today, that there's a lot of fast moves down, and then it's like, okay, is the market going down? Oh no, it's going back up, right? So you have to be really cautious with that, especially when you're in the trend box. Okay. So the second aspect of the approach is which few groups look the best technically. Okay. So which groups look the best technically? Okay. And so this is an important tool too. So he says the importance of this question can't be overemphasized, okay? Because he's shown that you could have two equally bullish charts that perform far differently if the sectors are different, right? So you may have like a really favorable chart, right? That's say like when we do our chart requests at night, right? What do we look at, right? We look at its trend, right? We look to see if it's closing over key levels. Right, but we also want to know the sector, right? How it's performing in the sector, right? So if you have a sector that's like doing really really good, right, and then you have a stock within that sector that's closing above key levels, right, and looking pretty bullish, right, with good volume, right, versus maybe a sector that's kind of looking like this, or or like choppy or whatever the case is, and it has the exact same candle setup, right, with the same volume, right, and they're both breaking out over a key level, right. This one that is in an uptrending sector, right, would tend almost a 75% chance better, or 75% chance of succeeding, whereas this one might be 50-50, even though it's the same type of candle setup, right? So this is really important, okay? And then the last aspect of this is Once you determine if the market trend is bullish, right, then Group A acts the best technically. And the final step is to zero in on the one or two best individual stocks in that sector. And really what that comes down to, and then which acts technically, so let me just add that into the notes right here. So which acts the best, so narrow down to best two stocks, narrow down to best two stocks, right? Narrow down. Okay, so that makes sense now, right? So now it makes sense why he calls it the forest to the trees, right? Because the first thing you want to do is look at the overall context of the market, look at the overall context of the sectors, and then drill down to the best stocks in those sectors, the best stocks in those sectors. So it sounds pretty easy, right? And it is. It really is. It's just, it's simple, but it's not easy, right? So we all know that, right? But there are processes that you can do, and we do this, on our live streams at the close. We go through that. We go through, the overall, the general state of the market. We look to see what things are doing intraday. But then we go through each of the ETFs, the main ETFs, to see what each sector is looking like, if there's any dramatic changes of those, right? And then from there, we can drill down into those sectors to find the best looking setups that are on there. And then, if we find a good setup too, that looks really good technically, right? We also want to just kind of see what sector it's in to see if it makes sense. Sometimes you can go from the tree to the forest, right? You just work backwards, right? I mean, so that's another method of doing it too. So, but anyway, that is the whole approach there. So it's a pretty cool thing to extract from the book there, and I think it's a really important concept, right? We went over a lot of technical topics this week, and I thought this is a great way to see to approach when you're looking to find a nice setup, or if you see a good setup, you may see, like tonight, we're going to go through some chart requests and stuff. We may see like a really awesome chart, but let's say like, we're looking at one that is looking rather bullish, but the rest of its sector, its constituents aren't doing that well. Well, maybe the odds aren't really going to be there, right? So that's definitely something to think about, right? So anyway, at this point, if anybody has any questions or chart requests, please feel free to plug those in the chat window, and we'll go through as many as we can and try to wrap up as early as possible so we can have an awesome night's sleep and have another great trading day tomorrow. And tomorrow is Friday, and so just remember that it's a weekly option expiration day. So if you don't like trading without theta, then you can consider trading next week's options. And also, just be careful you don't get assigned unless it's part of your trading plan. Nobody wants that. So good stuff. So Shirley sent in a few. So we have Bro. What's up, Bro? So Bro's been looking really good recently. This came up on the radar here after earnings, right? Had a really, really strong close right here. We've talked about the method of, if you have a big gap up day for, finding like some nice scalp trades over the prior days, the gap up day's high, right? You can get a nice little move off of that, and then you get a continuation move. So Bro actually gave a little doji sandwich yesterday and got some, a little more upside off of that, the real body right there. So Bro's looking pretty good right here. Again, it's a big gap up. This is a difficult stock to trade if you're doing options, right? It doesn't have really good, volume and all that stuff, but in terms of stocks, yeah, it's starting to look pretty strong right here. So just see how Brown and Brown holds these levels. Just keep an eye out here. It's got dividend coming up here pretty soon. So Tesla, of course, super bullish, right? We obviously want to see how it holds its gap right here and if it can defend it again, right? But you have to imagine that it's going to probably be pretty strong as always with Tesla. MDLZ, so Mondelez. Okay, yeah, huge candle today. Big move. Oh my goodness. Why was this not on the radar today? Good grief. Okay, so that took out that pivot right here, right? So that's a nice gap and go potential. And then you got a little bit of resistance right there. Uh-oh, it took out that level right there as well. And then it just ripped today. Wow, what a great move on. Let's take a look at the internals on this one. Yep. Grabbed it right at the open right here, got through the first key level, got through your pre-market, aftermarket levels right there, right? Pushed really nicely through there, and then, kind of got to the 15-order high. So this is mostly a momentum move at the open, as we often see. Get a little pushback, retag the 15 orb, and then back up again. So again, this could be pretty bullish too going forward as well. Look for a push above today's high for a momentum move. Okay, and then we also have XLU. Okay, so XLU, this is like a forest type stock, right? So you look for the utilities, right? So we've seen, right, the utilities have been super duper strong, right? So this is one where you look for setups, right, on whatever the best ones are looking at. So it had a nice close again today, right? So if you look here at like, you look Southern Company, right? This thing's been a monster in this group, right? So huge moves. It's decently weighted in the sector, right, and has had a big move up, right? And then you look at Duke, and I think you mentioned this earlier too. Duke has been pretty good too. It also had a good entry when the rest of the sector was good, right? Nice close over the cloud, nice close over a downward trend line, and also continue to work its way up. So really, really good stuff right there. We'll see if that trend continues. It looks like it might because the utilities are just continuing to be strong, right? So we'll see. We'll see how long until they decide to rotate some money out of that sector. And then LLOY, nice close today, good volume after earnings. So looks pretty good here. So just look to see, if we can get some follow through over today's highs on that one. So that's looking pretty good too. So good. Osiris, what's going on? Stacy, good evening. Osiris, ANTM. Okay, so ANTM, part of kind of like that healthcare sector, right? It has been pretty weak here recently. Had a nasty candle yesterday, right? Right after earnings, right? And then got a nasty candle there, and then it got the follow through right out of the cloud right there. So big volume here, and then it found a little bit of support here at some prior levels. So at this point, we got to see, right? It's testing kind of a prior double inside day range right here. It might want to test those lows first, right? We got a fib fan light right here too, so it might kind of test down here and then go up. But I wouldn't expect this thing to bounce immediately, right? I would expect it. So this might be a markdown period. Might see some distribution, like a little bit of range, and then we'll look for a breakout candle down the line and see if it can kind of work its way back up again. And watch out for the 200 moving average above. And then URI had if I recall, had a pretty rough day today after earnings as well. So pretty bearish here, big volume, right? Key levels are basically below today's lows, right? So it may want to get below there to see if we can push down below the cloud again. Options wise, this is a difficult one to trade, but good stuff. And Matthew, yeah, good evening. Thanks for tuning in, man. Manesh, what's up? Win and Roku, yeah, let's take a look at Win. So Win looking pretty good. I believe what LVS recently reported too. So let's clear this out a little bit here. But we held the 200-day moving average. Right? This has been down on a lot of that coronavirus type stuff. Right? They're Asian casinos. It is holding the 200-day moving average. It is holding the cloud. It does have earnings coming up. That's going to be very interesting. Right? We do want to see it try to get back above these levels to work. But at this point, with earnings coming up next week, it's going to be a little, probably be a little bit out of play. But we'll see. We'll see. It's all about on earnings. It's all about how they guide with this China information. Right, Roku's looking pretty interesting right here. I'm seeing a descending triangle still. It's holding these levels. Very, very key stuff for it to continue to hold right here. I'd like to see it get above this downward trend line right here. And actually, this is it right here. I didn't see this little level right there. But it's just kind of struggling that it's been a little bit out of play, but it needs to try to work its way up, get out of this trend line, and maybe it can get out to this thin cloud. Maybe earnings will help it. So we'll see on that one. Been a little interesting recently. Michael Phillips, what's going on? Hello, everybody. SQ, let's take a look. Yeah, so SQ's been very strong. Nice close today, too. So, it held over that key breakout part right there, right? And it gave you a nice hammer today. So let's see if it continued to hold the prior high of that candle. Let's see if it could try to work its way up. And then MDB was epic today. Very, very nice move. Very, very close, right? You got this pivot right here. Right, so your high right here was 166.41. We closed above that today. That's good, right? And I do have this old pitchfork level here. I'm trying to see where this came from. Oh yeah, way back there. So it still could be in play. So just a little bit of caution here. It did close over these key levels. I think it's a good one to keep on the radar for tomorrow. Right. Well, my favorite is that it broke out of the bull flag right here and gave a nice move yesterday, and then some nice follow through today. Right. So I don't know if the move is done yet, but it definitely has been very impressive, right, so far. So some good stuff there. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me get a couple things ready here for this. 1 second. 1 second. Okay. Okay, good. We're good. All right. And let's see. So, AMD. Let's take a look here. Yep, so AMD had a real nice candle today, nice green, right? It is a gap above. So let's see, it closed over, some prior levels. Where are those levels from? Those levels from a long time ago. But yeah, I think this is the prior all-time high. So it basically closed above that level. It's been testing that area right there. So see if we get some strength tomorrow. Might get a little bit of movement on the good tech news with Amazon, and then may try to work to fill that gap above. And then Caterpillar reports tomorrow. So that should be pretty interesting. Let's see what it does. So it held the 200-day moving average there, and it could be pretty interesting. So let's give me 1 second here. Let me get this word over there. Good. Okay, so yeah, so very, very interesting. Yeah. Oh, sorry, guys. Yeah, so nice close. Held the cloud here. Let's see how it goes into earnings tomorrow. Obviously, anything can happen with that. So, generally, it looks pretty decent how it's holding these levels. And then CRWD. Yeah, CRWD was pretty impressive, right? Had a really strong move today. It's been having a couple really strong moves here. So, it's pretty interesting here how I kind of drew this, these kind of pullbacks on this right here. Showed what we were hoping for. Okay, so So now we're still trying to work it. We touched the cloud. We're working our way up. Nice candles, good volume. All right, it's got some key levels to work. This is kind of your main level here that we need to kind of look at, see if we can get above it. But generally, it's behaving pretty bullishly as it's trying to get to these levels. So very important stuff there. Tech Booze, what's going on? Hey, hey. What's with the yellow bar? What does it mean? That's an inside candle. So we've done a bunch of stuff on that on YouTube, before, but it's definitely an important one to know. So right, anytime you see a yellow candle, it just shows that the candle went inside the range of the prior day's candle, right? And so these are important for us because they show moments of indecision of price action, right? And then oftentimes when we see breakouts of those levels, right, we see continuation on it, right? So ultimately it started to work its way up above this level right here. It worked its way up. You had a double inside day right here, and it started to work its way down once it kind of closed below those levels, right? So it's a very, very good tool just to kind of show where there's pauses in price on it. So something pretty cool right there. And then you're welcome to, if you know how to load the scripts in Thinkorswim, I can share that with you too. Let me get it pulled up right here. Hold on. There you go. I'll paste it down here for you. You can try to plug that in your Thinkorswim and for your Think script. Hopefully that'll work for you. Yo-Yo-Mo74, what's going on? J Nug, let's take a look. Yeah, we talked about this again, right? We talked about this yesterday, the last 2 days, right? Held the 50-day moving average. Looked pretty good. Had a nice gap up this morning. But again, tough. So many levels it's contending with right now. It's tough to find like a quick breakout on these unless you're just kind of holding, right? That type of thing. So, but yeah, it looks pretty interesting right here. It gave you a spinning top, right? So we'll see, what type of strength or weakness we see going into tomorrow. How the futures digest this State Department news, right? And but JNUG still could be still one to keep on the radar, right? So that GLD, those type of things. So GDX. Jonah, what's going on? Google, yeah, let's take a look. So Google, the next big FANG stock to be reporting. It reports, I believe, next week. Yep, Monday after the close. So keep an eye on it. This is getting interesting right here. Decent candle here, decent volume. Looks like it's up pretty good, about 20 points on riding on Amazon's coattails. So that should be a pretty good one right there. May gap up around this 1470 area. So that could be pretty strong. So see if it gets any strength going into earnings there. And then LK, yep. So LK it's trying to hold on here. It held on to the 50-day moving average, right? It gave a little bit of a hammer, right? It's struggling though. It's struggling. It's holding a couple of these levels here. It's just it's tough, right? This is a tough one, right? It's in China, right? Chinese coffee company. If the more quarantines there are, the less people are out buying coffee, right? It definitely could affect the stock kind of long term. But it needs to show some strength, right? It did hold the 50-day moving average though, so that's something. Daniel, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in, man. So Roku. Right, so Roku again is kind of doing this descending triangle type look right here, right? Ultimately it's got to get over this trend line, right? If you can get over this trend line, close bullshit above it, increase volume, right? We may be able to slip our way out of this cloud right here and work our way up. And we're also contending with earnings in about 2 weeks, so something to look at there as well. Wendy, good morning. Hope you're having a great day. Hope everything's going great in Singapore. MHawk 420, what's going on? Bubble time. You see Yeti in their trees. I know exactly. So clicking and making weird noises and stuff. But anyway, we've got a decent close on Yeti today. I really liked Yeti. The only thing that concerns me about Yeti is these all-time highs, that 38.11, possible resistance there. But great candle, great volume. It's trying. It's gonna make a shot for it, I think. So we'll see what it does. Now, if it does close above that bullishly, right, we might see a gap and go. And in fact, if it does shop around until earnings and earnings are good, we might see a nice gap and go on this one. That's definitely one to keep an eye on. Nate, what's going on? Amazonia's earnings tonight. Hope you're doing great. And yeah, Friday tomorrow and the end of the month. That's right. Can you believe it? January's over. The first month of the year is already done. Amazing stuff. I hope everybody's been doing good. David, yeah, Amazonia is Amazon, AMZN. So Amazon, guys, I mean, just amazing, right? It's at 2054 here after hours. 2050 is the all-time high. It kind of came from this mess. Look at all these trend lines and levels and stuff we've been dealing with, and it's been tough, right? I mean, Amazon's been tough. It gave one kind of sign right here that it wanted to go up, this guy. Then it gave us all this nonsense to deal with after the aftermath of that candle. It was such a beautiful candle followed by this stuff, right? And then boom, earnings just launched it. Let's take a look at that. Look at that. Woo! Amazing. So pretty cool stuff, right? 2053. The fact that it was up another 100 points or so, right? At one point is pretty amazing. So it's got some work to do in the morning, but if it can get back over that 2100 level, it could have a pretty fun day tomorrow for Friday. And I'm just really happy that the premiums are going to start to get a little bit more reasonable again. So that's good. And then Facebook, let's take a look here. So Facebook had a rough earnings, right? But where did it gap to? It gapped right to the 50-day moving average. It also gapped to our trend line right here, right? Which is about as cool as it gets, right? Look at that. Bounced right off our trend line right there. And then it filled its gaps today. So we had these two levels here, which were really important that it filled. And then it gave that bounce off of it. Got back to the 50-day moving average. And then I wish it would have closed a little bit closer to its highs. But it's still a nice green candle. So I think we should definitely look at it. I think it's going to, do its best, right, to try to fill this gap. So we'll see how it handles that. Seneca, what's going on? Howdy. Docu, yeah, let's take a look. Docu had a great day today. We talked about this, right? The bullishness of how, it kind of held most of this channel right here, right? Had a nice bounce off the cloud, closed with 50-day moving average, got back in the channel, right? Saying like, hey, maybe I'll test a little bit higher, and it sure did, right? And nice close take, basically closed at all times. This thing's just been a monster, right? So nice volume today too. It looks like it could, try to continue to work its way up to test the top of the channel. Great stuff. And then Netflix, yeah. So let's see what Netflix here. So Netflix inside day, right? So let's see how that holds. See what it handles. So it's up. It's not really doing too much after hours in terms of Amazon. In fact, now Amazon's a pretty big competitor with it. So pretty interesting there. So we'll see how it handles that, right? They have inside day tomorrow. If it opens kind of flat, look for a breakout one way or the other tomorrow. So that's something we'll look at. It does look like it's kind of bull flagging a little bit too. So if it does break to the upside, it might get us out of that flag. So that'd be good. Wendy, IBM, new CEO. So we'll see how that acts going in tomorrow. It's up a little bit after hours too, possibly on Amazon, possibly on the new CEO. But definitely give you a northern doji right here. Held the 50-day moving average, right? Let's see if we can get up to the cloudish area. If it does gap up where it looks like it's going, it should be back over the 200 moving average. In fact, it would be over at if it's at 142, it would be back up here. So that's pretty significant for IBM. So definitely something to keep an eye on the radar tomorrow. QQQ. Yep, up 2 points after hours on Amazon, so that's a pretty good deal right there too. So again, just kind of holding the middle of these like prior channel areas right here. So very, very key area for QQQ. And then Plan. So Plan's a little bit interesting. And a plan. At this point, right, it's tough, right? We're kind of range bound, almost like a megaphone formation right here, right? Right, so see how it's handling right there, just tagged up here. I mean, it might want to come down and test these levels. Again, I would just want to see it close above these megaphone levels and, really ultimately a 60-36. Right? It's so close to here, it's not even worth really, unless you like trading it intraday, I'd wait for like some volume here. It is forming kind of like a big kind of cup and handle too. So this could be gearing up for a nice breakout. So definitely an interesting one to keep on the radar. And then Yo-Yo-Mo, let's take a look here. You got CGC. CGC has been showing some intraday strength, but has not been closing really well. So again, we're still in this kind of congestion right here. So key levels to get above is 26. 26 is some volume, and we might see some action on this thing. Great stuff. Yeah, Tech Booze, my pleasure. Archibald, what's going on? Diz. Yeah, let's take a look at Diz. Good old Diz struggling here. So big thing here is the gap. Right, so we're kind of just we got a gap up here, we got a gap down here, so it's kind of this island, floating around in this island space right here. So let's see, what it does. I mean, it basically held, the prior lows right here, so it's trying to create its own little range right here. It's got its channel right here that it's came up to, kind of rejecting-ish. It just seems like it would want to test, close this gap first before maybe earnings, and then, hopefully earnings will be good for it and give it a good push up. And then Apple. Yep, Apple's still going strong, right? Still holding all its trend lines. Looks pretty good. It's looks pretty decent here. I mean, it's got a couple gaps below, but it's holding its trend line right here. So that's kind of the big thing, right? So it's a little bit out of its earnings from 2 days ago is old news, right? So Amazon's gonna be the big deal tomorrow, but I think Apple can still give some strength on it. Now it did gap down below its doji a little bit. But it did put in a lower shadow today. So, it kind of finished red, which is rare for Apple, but it's still up pretty high up here. So, and holding trend. So definitely something to, still continue to enjoy or, continue to keep an eye on. Amazonias. Kathy, what's going on? Baba, let's take a look. Thanks for tuning in. So Baba, let's take a look right here. So Baba could be pretty good here on Amazon news. It was struggling, right? You had that big gap down, right? It's tough with some of these China names as they broke down their trend lines right here, right? So you definitely were set at 50 moving average, almost like a almost like what the market looks like now, just sort of like kind of maybe projected forward, right, a little bit, right? We had that breakdown below the trend line, came back above it, gap below it again, except we filled the gap, right? But this one didn't, right? So this one was like, nope, we want to get below these levels right here, and then it gapped down, right, to the 50-day moving average and tagged the cloud, right? And then of course it's crazy, Baba, right, reversed off of it, gave a couple of these 3-star top right here. So we'll see how it handles it. It's at the 50-day moving average, kind of a key level. So, I'll look for some action if it can get above today's highs. So good stuff. Michael, like the video, like it now. Yeah, press meow. That's awesome. Appreciate it, Michael. Yeah, anybody, we'll talk about that. But if you hit like on the on YouTube, we always appreciate it. So Jonah, so how are gaps created? So they're created by the market makers, right? And of course, after hours trading, right? So you can still trade after hours with stocks, right, till like about 8 p.m. depending on your broker, right? And so that moves things, right? Algos trade it, things like that, right? So it pushes things. So you look at Amazon, right? I mean, it has a lot of levels right here already, right? So you go to the 15, or just go to a smaller time frame where you can look at the after. I'm on the wrong chart. If you go to Amazon right here, you go to the 15, right? You can see right here, right? This is after hours buying, right? After earnings, they're not mostly algos, right? Pushing it up and all that stuff, and just kind of shorting anybody, squeezing anybody who's short, right? So tomorrow, right? We're not going to open flat, right? We're going to open above where we were. So what happens is tomorrow, right? What we do is we take off the extended hours levels right here, and then tomorrow on the 15-minute chart, we're going to be gapping up to, golly, good grief, up here. Right? Because after hours, we've already seen those levels, right? So, we're already at that level right now in terms of price. This is where they open it. Now, sometimes they don't do it. Sometimes there's not levels. And sometimes if there's no volume, it's just the market maker who prices it. And then he does that, or she, does that with the market, right? So let's say, or the sector, or based on news, or whatever the case is. So they might just, okay, so if the whole market is gapping up the next day, right? Then they might set the price of a stock that has no volume at the open at a certain level, maybe up $1 or $2, whatever they think it might be at, right? So there's some subjectivity to it, right? So, but with the S&P, right, where you gap, it's based on your futures movement, right? So if your futures are up 3 points, chances are the SPX is going to gap up 3 points, that type of thing. So that's basically where that comes from. Good. And then Sumit, what's going on? Oh yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, today was a good one. I really like that. Separating the forest to the trees, right? You can also go to the trees of the forest as long as you know what you're looking at, right? So that type of thing. So good. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this week's discussion and this series on the secrets for profiting. And like I said, if you're new here, definitely click subscribe on YouTube. And if you can, also, we like it when everybody clicks like on the YouTube as well. And then if you're new, also check out the links in the description too. It's got links to our website and to our Twitter feed and all that fun stuff. So thank you again, everybody, for tuning in, and thank you, everybody, for your support. And I hope everybody has a great evening. Looking forward to a good Friday. And remember your risk first and stay safe so you can stay in the game. I'll talk to you guys soon.